Do you have a bucket list? This is the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt. We are here live at the Xscapers compound at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. And what a compound this is. Now, they are all drinking, and Patty and I are not. I mean, all of us should have a bucket list. I have a bucket list. And in the last 2.5 years that Patty and I have been RVing, I have checked off about half of the things in my bucket list. We rolled into Nevada, Boulder City, Nevada, and they let me drive a train, a locomotive, a Union Pacific locomotive. So how cool is that? So the question that we have is, do you have a bucket list item? And have you written them down? I see a lot of heads shaking no.
We're going to actually ask that question and have you answer it in just a few minutes. Now, as Dan and I said, we've been full-time for over 2.5 years, and we've done a lot, had a lot of incredible experiences. And for me, the highlight is meeting people, community, like the people here at the Xscapers compound, as Dan lovingly named it.
I'm going to just point out that I think a lot of the people here do have a bucket list because somebody in your family said, I want to go to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. And I want to watch these balloons take off from the field right over there and land right on top of us like they've done a couple times here. So I think you do have bucket list items, but one of the things that we teach in some of the lectures that we do is how to really take a hold of those bucket list items and write them down and use them as kind of like a goal setting throughout your week or year. Now, that sound means it's time for today's fun fact. Our fun fact is brought to you by Open Roads Resort with 4 great locations in Montana, Utah, and Texas.
And we are so excited. We were supposed to go to Montana and Utah to these amazing locations. We were supposed to do that this summer. Unfortunately, plans changed. But when we leave here, we're actually going to their Texas location, which is Dallas NE. And it's right outside of Dallas, obviously. And they have amazing views, great amenities, and they're close to everything that you want to get to in and around Dallas. But let's get to the fun fact. So for today, the reasons people create bucket lists is, number one, to get themselves focused so they can figure out what it is they really want. And number two, to motivate them to get to those dreams that they have on their bucket list. So these are the main reasons that people do create a bucket list. And a lot of you were shaking your head. We talked about a bucket list. So when we're done tonight, well, maybe tomorrow because you've been drinking, but tomorrow when you get up, how about you create those bucket lists?
Now, I talked about this in the open. Do you write down your bucket list items? Patty and I clearly write down our bucket list items. And then we make little vision boards out of them so we can actually think about them and talk about them. And when we get in an argument, I can just point to the vision board and say, but I said I wanted to do that. But it costs too much money.
There have been some crazy things, let's just say.
So let me see, by show of hands, I'm going to say 50 people in the audience. We are outside, just so people know there's a lot of sounds coming through. Actually, a pump truck just jumped across.
Oh, the school bus.
Oh, a school bus. Okay. We've got comedians here tonight, too.
And we don't only have just one pump out truck coming by, we've got another one, too. So real quick, by show of hands, how many people in this audience of this unscientific survey, how many people in this audience have a bucket list? About half. About half, maybe even a little more.
Less than half. We both said something totally different. We're going to count after. We're going to get this counted.
Live television, live radio. So some people have, now the people that did raise their hand, how many of you actually write down those bucket list items and share them with your family, spouse, friends?
Just two. So we're going to talk about that and change that number today.
To
break.
Oh, you want to go to break? Okay.
Go to break. Somebody needs to be out there.
I'm Dan Hunt. This is my incredible wife who keeps me on track, Patty Hunt. And we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
When traveling in your RV, how do you navigate? Do you use a paper map, a GPS, or do you use Google Maps? Our sponsor, RV Trip Wizard, has the solution, and it just works.
It just works. You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt. We are live at the Xscapers compound at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. Not a balloon in the sky today because, well, it was a little bit windy and cold this morning. So a couple of them got up. But
they actually flew today. You just
Beautiful
slept
today.
through it.
yeah, I just slept through
I
it.
just got to be honest here. They did fly. You did. But how many people saw the balloons today? They flew.
Okay, well, when I went to the pilot briefing yesterday afternoon, they said it's going to be a red flag tomorrow morning, so go ahead and sleep in. So that's what I did. This is the part of the show where I usually edify our guests. And today I'm going to edify you guys right here. Together we travel hundreds of thousands of miles a year. We live at campgrounds, Cracker Barrels, Walmarts, and BLM land. We spend hundreds of dollars on gasoline and diesel, and we get our mail a few days later than it's delivered. We have a great life, and we're living every minute of it, and we are a part of the greatest community of people in the U.S., RVers.
And as Dan said, we're doing things very differently today. And this is where we would welcome our guests. And we want to welcome all of you, the Xscapers community, to the RV Life Podcast. Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I also have to just do some self-promotion here. We have in the audience today some celebrities that have actually been one-on-one guests on the RV Life Podcast. So Dave and Jacqueline. Dave has stepped away for a minute, of course. But Jacqueline, you're still there. And we just did a show with Dave and Jacqueline at the Hershey RV show. It was incredible. Now, I heard they sang the RV Life song to you guys the other day.
Yeah.
What a great song that they wrote and performed in the back. They recorded it in the back of their RV at an RV site. So that was pretty darn cool.
Okay, so now the teacher and me, who said they have that bucket list? Let's show your hands again. You have a bucket list. How many of you had the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta on your bucket list? So you got one checked off. Okay. Now, how many people have other bucket list items? Dan's going to come out and get a couple of your bucket list items. And if you want to go home and steal something that somebody said, feel free to add that to your list, right? Yeah.
The best way to make a list is copy other people's lists.
Copy and paste, copy and paste.
What is your name, sir? Where are you from?
Bruce, I'm from just outside of Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Okay. A Canadian, eh? Okay, so tell me one other bucket list item other than being here with me right now.
Well, my list is pretty simple. 30 years ago, my wife and I bought an RV, and we dreamt about traveling on the road most of the time. And 3 years ago, we started that dream. And we travel so far. We've started on the West Coast. And we've moved in and just about got Utah covered. But then this year, we got a chance to come here. So we're here. And next year, we're coming back to New Mexico. And we just keep slicing the states down 200 miles wide at a time.
That sounds amazing.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So
Okay.
while Dan's moving to the next person, I want to just talk to our listeners on the podcast, and I'm going to invite them to chime in by going to social media, and all of you are welcome to go to the social media and share. So we have RV Life Podcast, Instagram, and Facebook. And I'd love for our listeners and any of you guys to put your list, put something on the list. And again, this is how we're going to get those ideas from each other to add to our list. So go ahead. Do you have somebody else, Dan?
Now, I cheat a lot on my list because I have a list of maybe 10 items. But then after those 10 items, I'll go someplace and do something. And that then comes on my list. Like we went to Florida and I had an opportunity to go up in a glider. Now, I'm a pilot of fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters, so going up in a glider with no engine was kind of a different kind of thing to do. But it really was a lot of fun, and I added that to my bucket list item after I did it. So I added it and checked it up. Jacqueline, you're here with me. I'm going to come to you because Dave wasn't here when we introduced him. He's back now. So tell me about what your bucket list items are.
Absolutely. So Dave and I are fortunate enough to travel around the U.S., Canada, a little bit of Mexico, and play shows. My bucket list item would be to travel around and follow another band on their tour and see all of their concerts. And I think that'd be great. I don't know which band yet, though.
That's cool.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this question. Dave and I were talking about this yesterday. So, have you ever played to a really, really, really big crowd? Like the first time I walked out on stage to MC a show and there was 40,000 people in the audience. That it makes your heart jump a little bit.
But I thought it was really funny. We did do an event in Hershey. Jacqueline's favorite part was the green room with private bathrooms.
Yeah.
I didn't get back there. I didn't even get back there. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Bucket list item right there, right?
Now tell me, do people ever come up to you and say, "Oh my God, I want your autograph"?
They do? Yeah, sometimes. I mean,
Everybody has to go ask her for her autograph.
Yeah. And
before.
how does it make you feel?
Dave said like a natural woman. I had to use that one.
Okay, this is a G-rated show, so I'm going to move on to somebody else now.
One more, Dan.
Tell me about your bucket list items.
I'm from Chilliwack, BC, Canada. Bruce is neighbor. And we're just cruising around the south here this year, and hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll get to the East Coast in the fall, see the colors.
Oh, it's beautiful. We have to talk after. I'm from the East Coast. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's a group of campgrounds called
Spacious Skies.
Spacious Skies Campgrounds. They have campgrounds from Maine down to Georgia on the East Coast. And they have a tour that if you start in Maine, you can see the fall colors all the way through as you go through their campgrounds.
Yeah.
And they have some great discounts for RV Life podcast listeners.
Yes. And if you want to go up in the spring, then you can see the flowers and the trees bloom. Okay, Dan,
She told me one more.
That was your one more. Work with me. The dog's got a bucket list.
I got Jason. He's got
I've
a name
lost
tag
him.
on, and you like name tags. So, and Jason's got a dog, and I like dogs. So Jason's going to give us his bucket list item.
So I'm Jason. I do full time, and I actually keep my bucket list on Google Drive, and I strike through fonts to see what I've done. And one of my favorites is to go to take my 2 adult kids to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we're going to go in a few years when Pujols and Molina get inducted together.
That's awesome. That's one of Dan's.
That's a big wish list. When they get inducted together.
Okay.
So I got your back. I need a big stick, or I need somebody to kind of, once he's gone. There you go, Dave. Thank you. Just tackle him to the ground. But we talked about making the list, and we talk about why it's important. And I just wanted to share, as Dan said in the beginning, what do you want to do before you die? And why this topic is very important for Dan and I. In January of this year, my mother became ill, and I am so grateful for this lifestyle that I said, bye, Dan, got on a plane and flew back to Virginia and spent 6 months with her while she was in her last days. And having that opportunity to talk to her and hearing her talk about the things that she never got to do. And so that's what inspired this topic of really looking at what do you want to do. And as we go through this and we're going to talk about these things, it's not just the big things. It could be some of these little things. And we are going to come back out. I might not let Dan back out, but maybe I'll come back out and share, because, whenever we're sitting around a campfire and somebody says, oh, I just went to Kentucky, the caves in Mammoth are amazing sounding. So I certainly put that on my bucket list. So it's an ever growing, evolving kind of thing. So I guess the message here is it's never too late until it's too late. So for us sitting here, it's not too late, and you're never too old, and you got to enjoy the journey. That's what it's all about, right?
Okay, before we go to break, which we're about to go to break when I look at my little script here, I'm going to take a picture of all of you, because my bucket list, and when we started doing the RV Life podcast, normally we do it in our RV at our dining room table, and we have everything set up and everything's in a controlled environment.
And working properly.
And we are not in a controlled environment here today. But Dave and Jacqueline, you guys know about doing pop-up concerts all over the place, and if anything can happen, it will happen in this industry. Dave and I were looking, we pulled these speakers out of the RV because they travel with us everywhere we go. Dave and I have a lot of years of experience between the two of us with speakers and all that kind of stuff. We couldn't figure out what was going on. I mean, the two of us together and a couple of other people in the audience. We have somebody that dubbed himself our stage manager.
Our drummer here.
And we have a producer, Thomas Bays, assistant producer. So he's our assistant producer today.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stand up and take a picture of all of you guys, because you guys are one of my bucket list items. I love doing this podcast. I worked a lot of years in radio where I go into a little teensy room, and the only input I have is when I do something wrong, the phone rings and the station manager yells at me. So today, we've got to a point where we have this podcast and the internet, and we get it out over there. We are very, very proud to say that the RV Life podcast, in its first 6 months, we were told by Buzzsprout, who distributes our podcast for us, that we're in the top 5% of all podcasts in the world.
I didn't have that on my bucket list because I certainly didn't expect that to happen. So I guess I could put it on there now.
Tell them to smile.
Smile. Very nice smile. Thank you.
Okay, but after the break, I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about how to create a bucket list, how to activate that bucket list, and ideas to add to your bucket list. We're going to cover all of that when we come back from the break, right after I hit this button.
The most important part of your RV is the roof. If your roof leaks, your trip and your RV get ruined. You can take it to a dealership or service center to be maintained at their expensive rates. Or you can maintain it yourself over a weekend for a fraction of the cost. Liquid Rubber RV roof products will keep you dry and leak-free. Visit shopliquidrubber.com/RVLife. Use coupon code RVLifePod15 to save 15%. That's shopliquidrubber.com/RVLife.
National Indoor RV Centers with over 1,000 motorhomes available across multiple locations. National Indoor RV Centers continues to provide an outstanding hassle-free motorhome ownership experience. National Indoor is the #1 Newmar dealer in the nation and also features brands like Integra, Winnebago, and much more. Visit NIRVC.com and become a part of the National Indoor RV Centers family.
Now, let me ask you a question. Did anybody in this audience purchase their RV from NIRVC? I've got one. Were you happy with your sales process?
Well, that's not a great thing.
Yeah.
That you just opened yourself up.
Yes.
She was. Okay, good.
Yeah, I took a chance and I just went with it. So.
Well, that's risky. Say that again.
NIRV service.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're using NIRV. Wow, that was a nice catch. For those of you listening to the podcast, Dan is throwing T-shirts, and she had a nice catch. And the gentleman over here said he uses NIRVC for service. We're very grateful to them because when Dan finally met me in Virginia, we needed a place to store the RV. We said it'd be a couple weeks, and 4 months later, we went back and picked it up. They let us keep the RV at NIRVC, so we are very grateful to them.
And for those of you that don't know about National Indoor, they have facilities all around the company, 6 or 7, 8, 9 nowadays, six or 7.
You're a little faster than that.
Brett, the owner, is just an incredible human being. He knows more about the RV industry than anybody I have ever met. He has a concept of a marina concept. So for people that, let's say you live in Albuquerque, I'm not sure anybody lives in Albuquerque, but if you live in Albuquerque and he had a center here, which he does not, but when you go out in your RV for a week or two, then you bring it back to your spot at his facility, and then they service it, they clean it, they get it ready to go for your next. It's like the marina concept. When you have a boat, you always bring your boat back to the same marina after you've used it for a day or 2 or 3. Well, he put that concept in, and I just thought it was genius, and the people there are just incredible. They really, really are. There are people that care. I believe it starts at the top and it just trickles down through the whole organization. We know a lot of those people personally. And for Patty to be able to spend the last 2 months of her mother's life with her, 6 months of her mother's life with her.
6.
Yeah, the time just kind of all blurs together.
Yeah.
When that kind of stuff was going on. But so many of us just get on a plane and go to a funeral when a friend or somebody dies and you go to their funeral. Well, spending that time with that person before they pass is so, so important. And NIRVC gave us the ability to do that.
Okay, so let's get back to creating that bucket list. So a lot of RVers travel with others, and we have, I hope that's water. There was something squirting out of the back of that tank. I hope it's water. Oh, great. Okay. All righty then. This is desert camping. So what's one of the first things that I think is important for creating a bucket list? And that's discussion and sometimes a little bit of arguing, heated discussions, whatever you want to call it. But like everybody getting on the same page, talking about what do you want? I know that, there have been things that Dan's wanted to do that I've just gone along with, and things that I've wanted to do that he kind of goes along with. I think most of what we decide on doing, we both want to do. How many people had this discussion before they got out on the road? Well, not a lot. It's sort of a couple
Is there
people.
anybody that did not want to come to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta from one side of the couple?
Nobody's going
to admit to that, huh?
They might not want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I've got a shirt if you admit to it.
Back there, you're not getting up at 4 o'clock every morning. She is not. I'm with you. I'm somebody's going to get hurt. We'll get you one. I'm with you, though. I'm exhausted. But I think that's an important part of it, is talking about the things you want to do. When we started, so when Dan and I started out, it was during COVID, like so many people. Dan called me up to his office. Now I was living in a 3,200 plus square foot house with a pool, a hot tub, and a walk-in closet. And he calls me up to the house and he says, so I didn't care about leaving the house. The fact that I had to stay there was not that big a deal. But he calls me up and he says, let's sell everything and buy an RV. And I just started laughing. This was the start of the conversation, not the way to do it. So
now let me protect myself and set this up a little bit.
There's no protecting yourself.
I was working on a show in Bally's, Las Vegas. They called us into a meeting and they said, we are not going to reopen our stages for a year after the government says COVID is over. So I'm sitting in my office and I'm looking at $5,000 to $8,000 a month going out. And I've just been told that we have at least 12 months before we're going to go back to work. That just didn't work for me. So I have always wanted to live on the road. I've always had that dream of wanting to live on the road.
That was not something that had been shared prior.
I kind of shared it because every time we went by an RV dealership, we would just stop and go and look and sit in them for a while.
this was not how to share. But he said, it'll be great. We'll go to every national park in the country. This was the idea behind it. And I was like, I'm not sure that sounds like exciting to me. Yes, I probably want to go to some, but I don't necessarily want to go to others. And obviously I fell for whatever he was feeding me. And here we are over 2.5 years later. And how many national parks have we gone to? Take a guess.
0.
Not a single one. And people say, why? I got chastised yesterday at dinner for that by Joe. He was like, really was not happy. But we always find something cool, something exciting that I hadn't even thought of. So we have yet to get to one.
Well, for those of you that don't know, we also have a YouTube channel called Exploring Through Our Lens. And because we have a YouTube channel called Exploring Through Our Lens, we're not allowed to shoot in national parks at all. At all. I was told by one of the PR people from the National Park Service, she was the Western Regional PR person. She said, by our rules, you can't even shoot personal pictures. So I can't go into Yosemite and shoot a picture of her with Yosemite in the background because we have been declared villains. You too, by the way.
Yeah, they're stage shaking.
You have been declared. So, so national parks have not been on our list, even though there's some beautiful things out there.
Right. And we will get to them. We just won't shoot. We'll get to them. And certainly part of this is, like I said before, enjoying the journey. Sometimes, the journey has been more exciting, more fun than the actual destination. We stop off somewhere and we've done things that I never would have thought to do. We were in Tennessee. We were going to Nashville, stopped before or after Nashville. We never got to Nashville. We stopped in this little town called Bonacqua, Tennessee. Anybody ever even heard of it? It's somewhere off 40. It's an amazing little town. Put it on your bucket list. We stayed, it was a harvest host, and we stayed with this couple that raises longhorn cattle. They're like puppies. So he took us out there, and they want you to pet them. Their horns are this big. Seriously, they're like puppies. And he comes pounding on our door 6 o'clock the next morning. He said, you got to come with us. You got to come with us. Listen, dude, I haven't had my coffee yet. This is not going to work. So we go with him when we saw a calf being born. Like, you just don't, it's like those are the kind of things that are just amazing that you don't necessarily have on the bucket list, right? You just
it's on my bucket list now.
Yeah. And then you check it off. So your homework, right? Today, writing it down, talking about the things you want to do. There are some things sometimes we'll talk about that one of us will say we want to do that we didn't realize. So, keeping that going, keeping that conversation going, keep adding to it.
Going to the Reno air races was one of the things that was on my bucket list. Patty had no interest in it at all. This is where I learned a very valuable lesson, that when you get married, your bucket list has to change just a little bit.
Well, I did go, right?
But she did go. She spent the 5 days there.
And
we
it
dry camped for a week. And because we do video, we took showers every single morning before we got up and went out. It was quite the experience to meet the Blue Angels in person and then have them fly over you at 10 feet. It was an experience and a half. Kind of like, watching the other day when you had the competition set up right over here and the balloons flew in and dropped their little bean bags on the board. The person that we are camping with actually won that day. So when he dropped his beanbag, he dropped it right on the target. So that was a lot of fun.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask, has anybody come up with a bucket list item that they hadn't thought about before? Okay, so you want to go out. I'll let you go out, but you have to come back for your turn. And for those people, for our podcast listeners, Dan is now going out into the audience to find out what people may have added to their bucket list item, to their bucket list.
My name is Tim Fains, Southern California, Ventura, and on our bucket list was a motorhome. We've been using it camping, but we never bought one, and we bought a motorhome. We took delivery of it in Las Vegas, and we went to the NFL draft while we were there.
Wow.
Had no idea we even wanted to go to the NFL draft. They had shut down Las Vegas Boulevard. They had a big thing going on. I mean, it was amazing. And Debbie and I looked at each other and we called our motorhome the Magic Motorhome because now the bucket list is now developing. And once you got the motorhome, now the bucket list keeps going. We've been to a lot of national parks now and stuff. Never on the bucket list before.
Right.
It just keeps growing.
That's awesome. And you know what? How many people, give them a round of applause. How many people had RVing on their bucket list? Just a couple.
Before they went
I did.
RVing.
Before you went, right?
More than half of the people in the room.
How is he counting? Have you been drinking? Take your glasses off.
Double vision.
You know, yesterday we're shooting the television show. We're out at the balloon. We're getting ready to put the basket back in the truck. I said to the driver, I said, you're about 6 feet away. And I put my hands up this. He keeps moving back, then 5, then 4. Then she's like, how can that be 6 feet? So I laid down between the basket and the back of the truck. And I'm 6'2". And my head was just barely on that lift gate for the back of that truck.
Okay, that is one of my, I can count. We've lost it now. Okay, so let's try that again.
Okay.
I can't even get myself together. Thank you. For our listeners, I have lost it. I couldn't even pull it together.
Now, we said before the break, we'd talk also about how to accomplish your bucket list. It's one thing to say, I wanna. It's another thing to say, I did. I did go to the NFL draft. And what an experience that is. I did go to the Major League Baseball draft. What an experience that is. Because it's not just about calling the name out. And one of the things that NFL did this last year, in this year's draft, is they let interns actually do the reading of the picks. So instead of Pete Rozelle out there, saying pick number 32 is Dan Hunt, they actually let the interns do that, and he stood aside and watched. I thought that was just a great thing to do to get those interns involved in the draft this year.
I think what I'm seeing, and again, we have some ideas of what we want to say, but this is totally not scripted. I think what I'm hearing and seeing, and if you guys agree or disagree, let me know. Disagree with me. But I think this lifestyle has lent itself to, even though you have the bucket list, there are so many things I know for us that we've done that we never thought of. And I'm hearing that from a lot of you, where you just kind of finding things that are like wow moments that you never would have thought of. I'm thinking we put those on our bucket list and we check them off, right? I think that's great.
Anybody ever been to Luray Caverns? That's my girl.
Yeah, in Virginia.
In Virginia.
Shenandoah.
What an incredible experience that was. Now, we went in there and they actually closed the whole thing for us so we could go in and shoot and not be disturbed. I thought that was a little much. But right next to the Luray Caverns, there's something that I just always wanted to do and have never done. And that's go into a hedge maze. Have you ever seen a hedge maze?
You know how you have corn mazes, right? Unless you live in the desert and then they don't exist.
But
hedges.
We went in and she was a little bit nervous about going in, so we talked to the owner and builder of this hedge maze. He actually modeled it after something in England. I guess they're pretty famous in England, those hedge mazes. And I mean, you could go in this thing for an hour or 2 or 3 and never get out.
It was amazing.
Now, we had the owner, so he knew how to get out.
Yeah. We just were doing it quick. But it was really amazing. You don't think about it. I just was like, okay, this is for kids. And again, I think a lot of us that live or, RV, how many people are full-time? Okay, Dan, that's half. There you go.
No, that's more than half. Anybody with me out there that was more than half? More than half of the people are full-time. That's right.
You've been drinking too much, and you probably need to take your glasses off. You've got one person agreed. Then those of you that are part-time, sometime, whatever that looks like, right? But I think this whether you are part-time or full-time, just lends itself to finding those things. And again, I mean, in the beginning, as I said, I think that so much of what we've enjoyed and so much that's been amazing is meeting people, right? I mean, I never would have had that on my bucket list, but we've met so many incredible people that have become incredible friends. We left here and had dinner with 6 couples at the house we're staying at. When we started out on our journey, it was a Boondockers welcome we went to. They live 5 miles from here. Great. She lets us come stay, full hookups. Can't beat that. So we are now moochdocking instead of boondocking. And it's just the people that we've met is probably one of the biggest things, the most important for us.
Now, I'm going to say before we started RVing, she hated people. I mean, really,
Exactly.
she did not like people at
those
all.
things.
Now, she's the life of the party. We're the last people to leave the party usually. It's just all kinds of fun. Well, I think I'm going to take Jacqueline's idea, and instead of you following somebody else around, we're going to follow you around and do our podcast right after you guys are there.
After you perform, there you go. I think after this, though, we're going to need a serious break because that's part of it too. So enjoying the journey. When we started out, how many people did this? We started out, we're full-time. We had to do everything. Like, let's do everything. We're in this area. I guess I felt like we'd never be back again. So we're doing everything. After the first 3-4 weeks, I was exhausted. And then we just decided, hey, we need to slow down, take our time, enjoy the journey, and just like sometimes what you see around you. I was in Pennsylvania. We stayed in Pennsylvania after my mom passed. I said, I just need time. We stayed there. I went and had a massage. That was my treat. And this woman says to me, you should see my other facility. She said, this might sound crazy, but there's this amazing tree. I know it might sound crazy. I said, no, that doesn't sound crazy at all. I love trees and nature. This is the oldest sycamore tree ever. It's from like 200 years ago, maybe more. And it was just amazing. You don't think about those kinds of things, right? I mean, it's just not something you think about, but that was amazing. I go home, I say, grab your camera, grab the GoPro, grab the drone. We're going to take pictures.
So we will post some of those pictures on our Instagram page so everybody can see what she's...
Yeah.
We, meaning she will post some pictures on our Instagram page. And then I'd love for all of you to go on and comment about it and say, we heard about that at that Xscapers compound at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about how to accomplish your bucket list. When I was a little boy, my father got me a book. And this book talked about a place called Meteor Crater. It's right on I-40. So I read this book, and he would read it to me every single night. And I got obsessed with Meteor Crater. And then one day, we lived in Los Angeles. I grew up in Los Angeles, by the way. My dad came to me and said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to drive all the way across the country to see your grandparents in Euclid, Ohio, which is basically Cleveland, Ohio. So we got in the car, and day one, we drove to Las Vegas. And my parents went out drinking, and my mother especially was very, very hungover the next day. But the next day was the day we were supposed to go and stop at Meteor Crater. But because my mom, we didn't get started, we never made it to Meteor Crater. So then it was one of those 12 o'clock stopovers, so we never even stopped, and we drove right by it. Fast forward 35, 40 years. We buy an RV, and we leave Las Vegas, and we're going to Pennsylvania to see our kids. We were originally from Pennsylvania, both of us from Philadelphia area. So we drove on 40, and don't you know, without doing the research, and normally I do all my research, and I would have seen it on RV Trip Wizard, but we did not, that first trip, I did not plan it into the stop. And I see the signs for it, and I'm like, let's stop. She says, no. Come on, we got to stop there. Yeah. She didn't even really drink. And she just kept saying no. So we drove right by Meteor Crater. We got to Philadelphia, and we're staying in Philadelphia, and we get a call that says,
You need to be back in Las Vegas for a television show in 4 days. So what do? We hightail it back across the country from Philadelphia back to Las Vegas. We get there in 4 days, and what did we pass? Meteor crater.
Yep.
We get there, and contractually, some problems happen, blah, blah, blah. They wanted us in this TV series. They wanted conflict. They wanted us to fight all the time. And we don't do negative. So we actually turned down a TV series because we will not do negative.
Not that we don't fight. Let me be clear. Not that we don't. We have to be reminded sometimes that the RV walls are thin. But yeah, we're not doing that for a TV show.
So we got back in our RV and we went back to Philadelphia and we drove right by Meteor Crater.
Okay, but honey, it's on the list. It's on the bucket list.
It's on the bucket list.
So, and again, prioritize certain things, add certain things to it, but have fun with it. I think that's the big thing, but make a plan. I don't think so much for the RV community. I think the RV community is different in going out, doing things, experiencing things, seeing things. Our purpose in doing the podcast and doing the YouTube channel was to inspire people to get out. So I don't know that you guys are the audience in there, but for those people listening to the podcast that say, oh, I've always wanted to go in an RV. We hear it all the time. Even if you don't go out and buy an RV and travel full time like some of us have done, do something. Go out and do something, right? There's always something out there that's fun and exciting that you could do. So get out there and do something.
Okay. The next thing I have on my list here is, do you celebrate when you have something that you accomplish? If you accomplish a bucket list item, or if you accomplish a goal, do you take the time to celebrate that? Most people do not.
How many people celebrate a win, a goal achieved? Good. And that's
wow,
not
about half the people.
That is not half either. What, 10 people raised their hand? Oh my goodness. Those are reading glasses. Okay then.
So I want to tell you a little story about the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, ballooning in general. Now, ballooning was created, the very, very first balloon was two brothers from France. A tradition started very, very early on that they would take a bottle of French champagne on every balloon ride. And that tradition has stayed. So today, when you take a balloon ride, you always do a toast that you went up to the skies and you came back down to the earth safely. And usually that toast includes the first time person getting on their knees in front of the basket and getting drenched with the champagne. But I just thought it was great that every single time a balloon goes up in the air and then it comes down, they have a bottle of champagne with them and they do a toast. That's one of the reasons that I'm going to try to get my rating for hot air balloons. But I think that they really got something there. They really have something there. And that is celebrate those wins. Because when you do go to the NFL draft and you get that feeling, that experience of seeing something that is bigger than life almost. I mean, and that's the feeling that it is. It's really a production. It's bigger than life. Toast that you did it. Because then you have that accomplishment and you remember that accomplishment. And that's what I think is so important. Okay.
Now, I do want to go back and ask again, how many people had the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta on their list?
Wait a minute. Before you put your hands up, I'm going to say it's about half of you.
Right. Or they're going to go home and put it on your list. How many people went in a balloon? How many people went for a ride?
I did. About half.
Thank you. So again, for our podcast listeners, nobody raised their hand. Go out if you do want to go for a ride. They are looking for crew. If you go out and volunteer tomorrow or Sunday, you might get a ride. It's not guaranteed, but they are looking for crew. That's a side note. Now, all of you are here through Xscapers, and what I understand is there's 3 different Xscapers events here. Is that correct? So go out in the audience. I just want to give a shout out for Xscapers allowing us to come in. And I want to let people know that do have the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta on their list. Xscapers and the 3 different events is the way to do it, but you got to plan early, right? She's shaking her head. Amy is one of the hosts, and she's the only. There's 4 hosts. She's the only name I remember. So sorry. So when you go over to Amy, talk about who our hosts are.
I remember Dave.
Dave.
I remember Dave, and I remember Jacqueline.
Well, Dave is not a host. Dave's not one of the hosts. So we've got our hosts over here, and then we have 2 others. Right here, right there. Oh, there you go. 4 people are raising their hand. Not half. Not half. And then tell us about the groups that people can attend this fiesta.
So my first question to you is, was being a host at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta for Xscapers on your bucket list?
Well, first I have to tell you that we're Xscapers.
Okay. So, and I got to interrupt because we had, and again, for our podcast guests, we had Melanie and Travis Carr on the show, who are the co-CEOs from memory, and they explained Xscapers, but you could be an escaper as part of it. So Dan and I are Xscapers and Xscapers.
So every escaper is also an escapee.
Okay.
So, yes, coming to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta was on our bucket list, but we didn't want to just come for 4 days. So we said, Holly, can we help? And she said, well, the last co-hosts aren't going to do it. Do you want to do it? So that's absolutely been a dream to be here and to serve these guys. These guys have been amazing.
And again, for our listeners, these people are having a fantastic time.
About half of one.
Oh, God. We're never going to hear the end of that. Okay. So what are the 3 groups that are here? Dan went off topic. But okay, we're going with the flow here.
So we have the big group, which is Xscapers, and they have a hop over here in the red and white tent. So those are like catered meals and a more, high class. They've got the tent, we got the dirt.
I've got it.
What's a hop?
Oh, what's a hop? Hop is a specialized event. Head out program.
Head out program.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Paul. So Xscapers has a group called Boomers, and they are running Boomers and Balloons, which is right over here. So they are crew, and many of our crew actually went up in the balloon. They were here. I don't know why they weren't here when Dan called on them, but yes, we have had some Xscapers go up in the balloon. So if you want to get involved in that, you have to email Ms. Tweety. We'll get you that information. So our group is the Xscapers, and so this event is very because we have so much interest in this event. We split it up into 2 groups.
Okay.
So this is session 2. They just got here.
Oh, okay. So it's double, Dan, the size of what we see here. Now you'd be correct. Okay.
I'm going to say about half of them left.
Oh, my goodness. We do have to describe this for our listeners that can't see this. We are in a field, and it is, I don't know, a mile to the park, right? To the balloon park. You could walk there, take your electric bikes. Courtesy shuttle they have here. And they have, RVs parked. You can bring generators. You're probably hearing them in the background. There is a pump. So if you need to be your sewer pumped out, you could do that. But the Xscapers do sell out. The Xscapers did sell out. Okay. So for those who have Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta on their list, this is definitely the way to do it. The people here are amazing. Let's hear from you. We've had so much fun. I'm glad we get to be here, even though we weren't part of this particular event. So thank you for having us.
Now, if you at home or in your car or working out listening to the RV Live podcast, if you want to come to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta through them or through Xscapers, or there's other groups that come here and do things as well. You need to plan on it now. Put it on your bucket list today, because if you don't take action, you are not going to get in. This thing sells out. Somebody told me within 5 minutes of when it went up. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so Dan said
Within
5
minutes
minutes of when it went up. 10 minutes. Okay, so we either cut things in half or we double them from whatever Dan said. Okay, now this is the part of the podcast where we usually go to break and then Dan and I do our close ourselves. But since we have you here, we're going to bring you with us. So we are going to take a break. And then we're going to ask the audience to share questions. Your glasses. Yeah.
Can't see a thing.
They're right here. It's a little bit challenging here today, but it has been an amazing group of people. Like, you guys are amazing. A little tired, I think. How many people got up at 4 or 5 a.m.? Yeah, they're a little tired. I am too. I'm with you.
Well, we will be back right after this.
Does dropping your motor coach off at the truck stop full of semi-trailers for new tires give you nightmares? Eliminate the unknown and get your new motorhome tires mounted while you watch at your campsite or wherever you are parked. Motorhometires.com takes care of the entire process for you. We come to you with your new tires, mount them at balance beads, and we even dispose of your old tires. With motorhometires.com, you'll also enjoy great prices and new tires with guaranteed fresh date codes, and enjoy sweet dreams instead of truck stop nightmares with your friends at motorhometires.com.
Protecting your RV investment means being ready for anything. An extended RV warranty from Wholesale Warranties is the best way to make sure that if an RV failure happens, you can afford to get back to enjoying the RV life as soon as possible. RV warranties are available for motorhomes, fifth wheels, and travel trailers, new and used, across the U.S. Visit wholesalewarranties.com for a free personalized RV warranty quote today and hit the road with peace of mind tomorrow.
Okay. Does anybody have a warranty on their RV? About half of you do, right?
They're not even raising their hand anymore.
I heard a yes out there, but
yeah, it's a couple.
We had them on the show a couple weeks ago, and it really made me want to think about how important a warranty can be for your RV.
And
now,
wait, I got to say, the owner of the company, and he was so down to earth and so honest. I got to be honest, it was one of those podcast interviews that I was worried about. Like, how do you make talking about warranty exciting for 45 minutes, right? This guy was so down to earth, and he said, look, a warranty is not for everybody. And I just had so much respect for him. Anyway, side note to that, but
now that sound means it is time for today's question of the week. Now, we get our questions normally from social media, and people come and ask us questions, and then we go out and research them. But today, because this is such a good crowd, I do not know what this gentleman is going to ask. I talked to him yesterday, and I asked him to think about an RV question of the week. So I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to go out into the crowd and have one of you guys give us the question of the week. And I might have to edit in the answer to it. Okay, so walking out into the crowd without tripping over the wires. And I have Tom Days. Tom Days is going to ask our question of the week and do it right into that camera over there.
Hi, everybody. So many years ago, we grew up with a camping family, my brother and myself, and we progressed from tents to trailers to motorhomes, the whole 9 yards. And along the way, nobody seemed to tell me that I didn't have to drive 12 to 15 hours to get somewhere. So my question today for the team of experts is, how many miles should I drive, or maybe drive? How many hours maybe should I drive? Or should I not drive at all? And should I stop along the way? That's the question of the day. I'm going to give this back to Dan, and I want to thank Patty.
Thank
you.
you.
See you, buddy.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to let Patty answer this because she has got rules. This is a woman that was a school teacher for 20 some odd years.
She's got rules for rules for rules for rules. What are the rules?
First of all,
Rule of
I'm going to
thumb
say,
on
and I
it.
know you're thinking of the 333 rule, but what I'm going to say is what works for you. So how many people drive 2 hours at a time? How many people drive 3 hours at a time? 4 hours at a time? 5
About half
hours
a
at a time? 6 more?
4 hours was the about
Okay,
half.
he is like 6 hours, 7, 8 hours. It's such a personal thing. I have made it a rule to not do more than 250 miles, which is what, 3 or 4 hours?
Something like that.
Something like that, okay? Well, when we got stuck in Memphis, Tennessee on the way here, and we were a week late because the RV took a week to get repaired, we were doing 6, 7 hours at a time. I don't like to travel that way. I'm missing too much. I'm not enjoying the journey. I'm not enjoying the ride. And I don't do any of the driving. I just sit in my nice, comfy seat. But that's a great question. You just have to know what works best and more comfortable for you. And you saw here, you had the range of amount of time. You'll have a range of how long somebody will stay in one place. Right now, we need a break, so we are going to stay in one place for a solid week and not do anything but sit in the hot springs. That's where we're headed.
Ojai Caliente, which is about
2 hours.
2 hours north of here by Santa Fe. So it's hot springs, hot mineral springs, and mud baths.
And massages and no phone calls. So again, it just depends. Find what your comfort spot is. And again, it's a conversation because he'll say, oh, obviously, he pushes everything. So I'll say 3 hours and he'll say 5 or 6. Turns out to be 8. You see how it works in real life. So yeah, finding what's comfortable for you.
Now, one of your sub questions was, should you stop someplace along the way? And my answer is absolutely yes. Next time I go by Meteor Craters, I'm going to stop and I'm going to be there for a damn week.
Yeah, I'm going to
as
the
long as we can get in. The rest of the 333 is travel for 3 hours, arrive by 3 o'clock,
and stay for at least 3
and
days.
stay for at least 3 days. There's your 333 rule. So that's the one thing
that a lot of people suggest. We need to do the RV Life Pro Tip. Obviously,
I need a horn for that, though.
Okay, before the horn.
There's your horn. That horn means it's time for today's RV Life Pro Tip of the Week.
RV Life makes it easy to share your exciting RV trip with friends and family via the RV Life Trip Wizard. To share a trip with another Trip Wizard user, first open your trip, click on the wrench icon, and choose Share Trip. Now click Share Trip with another Trip Wizard user and enter the email address that person uses for their own Trip Wizard account, and click Send. Your friend or family member will find your trip in their own Trip Wizard account under Tentative Trips, where they can view, copy, or even change the trip according to their own needs. If you simply want to share a view of your trip, even to those without an RV Life Pro account, simply choose Visitor View after clicking Share Trip and create a shareable link that allows others to see your RV journey just as you planned it. I'm Pat Buchanan with your RV Life Pro Tip of the Week.
Thank you, Pat Buchanan, for the tip of the week. So Dan bought RV Trip Wizard before the RV and before he convinced me to even go RVing. So he was up there in his little office planning out trips that he wanted to do before. So we have been using RV Trip Wizard for over 3 years, longer than we've been traveling, and we love it. And because we have the RV Life podcast, we could offer you 25% off if you don't have it. But great tips. One of the things that we do, whatever program you use for planning your trips, we send our trip to our best friend and our oldest, most responsible child so they know where we're at any given time. Except when we go to Ojai Caliente, where we don't want to be bothered. So we're like, yeah, we just took a week and stayed in the desert. But it is a great way to plan, and it is a great idea to have somebody that knows where you are at least most of the time. So for our RV listeners, RV Life podcast listeners, it has been a show today.
It has been something a little bit different.
Very different. And we want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you so much. And thank you for welcoming us into the Xscapers compound.
I have 2 extra large shirts left.
Okay.
That's probably enough for about half of you.
Okay,
But whoever stands up for an extra large shirt first gets me to throw it to them. There we go.
Let's close out the show.
There we go. Hold on. We're going to.
Oh, wait.
We have one person that has something that they would like to say to the Escapees compound.
Got it. Okay. My friends call me Tommy T. Okay, I've been around the entertainment and music business for many, many years. And I know a lot of people. And I'm going to help the border hookups. Hook up Jacqueline's Dream, where you can be an opener and follow a band. I can call the RV people and we can get that taken care of.
Wow.
They're playing here tomorrow at 2 p.m. live. And if you haven't seen their show, come and see it because they are incredible.
Yes.
Tommy T is over and out.
Yes. Yes.
They are more than incredible. And make them sing the RV Life song 2, 3, 4 times.
And everybody
it's
should
just
have the
in my
words.
head and I can't get it out of my head. It really is something. So,
Okay, we're ready.
okay. You're listening to the RV Life podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, saying, have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.
At least half of you.
I have never lost it like that.